Yeah, well, it's a big challenge for us. They've got a really good team, both sides of the ball, really explosive on offense, probably the best offensive team, in our league, especially in their presentation, and their quarterback has played phenomenally well for them. He's very athletic, and it's going to be a real challenge. I think it'd be a real challenge for anybody that plays against them. They got a great scheme, and defensively they put a lot of pressure on you. So, we're working hard at trying to improve as a team, get better, and have a chance to adjust to what we have to see this week.
Coach, your first question is going to come from Talala Mosher of the Gainesville Sun.
Hey, Coach, you were obviously not happy with your defense's performance last week, but how do you expect Manziel to perform in such a big road game for him?
Well, he's played well on the road before. They've played well on the road before. I think they've been pretty consistent in their approach, to how they've played, and they do a really good job in what they do in terms of their execution, and his ability to ad lib and extend plays, break down the defense, whether he does it scrambling and throwing it or scrambling it and running it, has been pretty phenomenal this year against some pretty good teams.
Now, he's putting up gaudy numbers this year. What makes Johnny different, though, than some of the other offenses out there in other conferences that are putting up gaudy numbers?
Well, I don't really watch all those teams unless we play them, so I can't really tell you what makes him different. But I just know he's a phenomenal athlete. He's very fast. I think he's, improved throughout the season in terms of, the passing game part of what he does. So, it's their style of offense. They're going to run a lot of plays. They're in a lot of spread out stuff, create a lot of matchup issues, and you got to be able to stop the run and the pass. And anybody that has balance like that, certainly creates lots of problems.
Thanks, Coach.
Next is Edward Ashoff of ESPN.com.
Coming off such an emotional win and such a physical game, what kind of challenges does this week, bring for your team, especially when you're playing a talented team like Texas A&M?
Well, I told the players after the game last week, this game's either going to bring out the best in you or the worst in you. We had a big win in a very difficult place to play, competed extremely well in the game, and I was really proud of the way our players hung in there. Although we didn't play maybe the best that we've played in terms of our execution, we sure did compete well and overcame a lot of, adversity in the game. So, we really felt good about that. But now we got to focus on trying to get things right, do things better, because this is a really good team that we're playing this week, and our players need to just understand that and appreciate it, and get in the right frame of mind that they're going to have a very difficult 15-round fight coming up, and get in the right mindset to play it.
And how have guys responded early in the week, and is there a concern that there might be a little bit of an emotional drop-off Saturday?
Well, our players have done a good job in practice this week. They seem to be, working hard. I think they have a tremendous amount of respect for Texas A&M and who they're playing against. So, we're doing okay. We just, got to continue to finish the week and improve, and try to play our best game of the year.
Next is John Zener of the AP.
Hey, Nick. First off, could you kind of update on the status of Amari and Eddie, how they've done in practice?
Yeah, they both practiced yesterday. Amari seems to be getting better, and, Eddie's, hopefully he'll be even better today. He probably took about half the reps yesterday. So, we're optimistic that both those guys will be, ready to go.
Okay, and you obviously had some freshmen who have jumped in and done well this year, especially Amari and TJ, but others. But it's been kind of a common theme around the league. Is that how impressive is it, and what does it take kind of mentally and physically for these young guys to come in and perform so well in such a tough league?
Well, I think that more and more guys have the expectation of playing, early on. Maybe it's, just some of the attention they get in high school now in terms of recruiting and playing in all-star games and, things like that. And I think that the players that have the maturity to understand what it takes to learn and grow and try to be a complete player at their position and go about it that way, they obviously have the ability to play. But in a lot of cases, the guys that play have the maturity to play, and the guys that don't, have a hard time with the consistency part of it, learning what to do, not getting frustrated and that type of thing. But I think there are more and more guys that are more ready, and I think it's just a sign of their maturity.
Thanks.
Next we have Joe Morgan of the Florida Alligator.
Hey, Coach, I was playing high-profile opponents like Penn State and Michigan early in the year. Helped you the past couple of years?
Well, we've tried to play someone, we played, Florida State, Clemson, Virginia Tech, Penn State a couple of years, Michigan. And, we feel like from a fan perspective that it's good for our fans to have a sort of a national game that they can look forward to. I think it helps our team develop in the off season as well as in fall camp, having a challenge like that early on. So, I do think it has prepared us, for a lot of the tough games in our league, to play a good team early on. So I think there's a lot of positives. It's a lot more positive when you win those games, obviously, but I think it's been a good thing for us.
Do you think there's a bit of hesitancy by SEC schools maybe to schedule tougher out-of-conference opponents just because the conference itself is so tough?
Well, I'm sure that there are some people that have that theory, but I kind of feel like if you play 4 teams outside the league and they're not very competitive games, I don't know how it helps your team develop, and it's not something that's very fan friendly from a program standpoint. So, and I think it helps your team get national recognition.
Thanks, Coach.
It's good for listen news.
Coach, Texas A&M's offense seems to do a really good job of creating open field tackle situations, solo tackle situations, not just with Manziel, but with all their playmakers. Could you just address the importance of open field tackling this week?
Well, I think it's always important to be a good tackling team on defense. Certainly, you have to do a good job against this quarterback, but they have a lot of good skill guys that are hard to tackle. They're bigger guys. They run with the ball well, and then they have some guys that are fast. They've got some really good backs, and by the nature of their offense, the way they spread you out, and there's going to be a lot of one-on-one situations where guys are going to have to do a really good job of tackling. I don't think there's any question about that.
Thanks.
Next is Chip Howard of KZNE Radio.
Vic, obviously the talk with A&M is a lot about offense. What have you seen from them defensively and any particular challenges they may present?
Well, they're very aggressive on defense. They load the box a lot. They're going to try to make it difficult for you to run, especially in run situations, and I think that's always, challenging. They're athletic. They run well. I think their secondary can cover. I think they put a lot of pressure on their secondary sometime, and they've really come through, very well, for them this year. So they've got a good defensive team, and I think it's largely because of, how aggressively.
They've had some success in the return game as well. Tell me about their return game.
Well, they've been really good in punt return. Do a good job of holding people up. Again, they're athletic and they can run, and I think that always bodes well for your special teams. They've got good returners, so they're very well coached on special teams as well.
Coach, we'll finish you up with Glenn Gilbo of Gwinnett, Louisiana.
Hey, Coach.
Hey, Glenn, how you doing, buddy?
Good. I wanted to ask you about the 10-year anniversary of Henderson's touchdown at Kentucky is coming up Friday, and was that the weirdest or most conflicted you felt after a win? Your defense had given up 16 in the fourth quarter. What do you remember about that?
No, I remember it all, and I remember that we played poorly, that day, and Kentucky had a decent team, and we didn't have a very good week going into the game, and I remember there was a big wind, and we sort of played to get the wind in the fourth quarter, and we hadn't played very well, and I remember that we completed a pass before that so that we had a chance for it, and the wind carried the ball about 70 yards in the air, and their guys misjudged the ball and tipped it up, and Devery did a great job of running through it and scoring. So it was. I think we practiced those kind of plays. I think there's a little bit of luck when you hit one. Things have to go right for you, and the ball has to bounce your way, and it did that day. But the other thing I remember about that is we didn't play very well that day, and we won. And we played really, really bad the next week and got beat as bad as we ever got beat. So that wasn't a good thing. But that was an exciting play, and it was fun to be a part of a play like that people remember this long.
Is it true, Nick, that after the game, I think on the plane home or something, Terry Saban said, "Nick, shut up and enjoy it"?
I can't remember that part because she tells
okay.
me she says shut up and enjoy it, and shut up and lots of other things about every other day. So for me to remember what happened 10 years ago on that one, that'd be tough for me. I get reprimanded quite a bit